I know you're excited to start your architecture firm, but hold up, wait a moment. Let's take a look at some things you will want to set up, or else you're going to find out that you have just left the starting line in a race that's running across gravel and you're not even wearing shoes. So let's take a look at these things and get you prepared for starting your company properly. My name's Chris. I'm the Saturday Architect, and I am teaching you things that I learned from starting my own business that is a sole operator architecture firm. So let's get going. These are in no particular order. You can take care of them in whatever sequence you want, but they're all very important for you to take care of before you start working on any of your projects. The first item I'll talk about is insurance. You're going to want appropriate policies and appropriate coverage for the scope of your business. You're definitely going to want to have professional liability coverage. We are taking on liability of the health, safety, and welfare of the public, as you know, because you've already gone through all the training to learn all that stuff very well. As such, you should have appropriate insurance coverage to have your back financially in case things go wrong. And let's face it, with a litigious society like ours, they very well could for you. So, make sure you have at least a professional liability policy, which is going to take care of things that have to do directly with your drawings. If you have errors or omissions, which is another name for that kind of insurance, then you can, up to a certain point, unless you do something really egregiously wrong, you can have coverage which will cover a certain amount of court fees, lawyer fees, things like that, in cases of disputes between you and your client. Another type of insurance you should look into is business owner policy, or commonly called BOP. This deals with matters that are more in the real world. Talk to an insurance agent to find out more about this. Next item I'm going to talk about is contracts. For an architect, there are two broad ways you can approach contracts. The first is using AIA contracts, the industry standard. You can also use non-AIA contracts, even making your own contract. The benefits of using AIA contracts really can be summed up by they are ironclad as far as having been vetted by lawyers. That doesn't mean you're not going to have any negative consequences, but you have very good shielding when it comes to attacks financially and litigiously. The downside is that they cost a fair amount of money every time you enter into an agreement with someone. You can build that into your project fees, so you can make it so the AIA contracts work as far as financially for you. Just make sure you consider that cost when you are working toward getting a project. When it comes to non-AIA contracts, specifically if you write it yourself, make sure you have a lawyer read it. Edit it, mark it up, make changes, do what lawyers do best, put in language that will hold up in court. The whole point of the contract is to protect you in case of conflict against your client or someone else, anyone else involved in the project with whom you have made a contractual arrangement. We are not experts in this legal stuff. Lawyers are. Make use of them. It is well worth your money. Now for the third topic, the space you're going to work in. If you're working at home, like I am, make sure you choose a space or a room where you can focus for long periods of time. If you're a parent like I am, this is especially important because kids, as amazing as they are very good at distracting us from performing our best work. We love our kids and we want to focus on them. We also need to make sure we can focus on performing our work. If you choose to work in an office or some other space outside of your home, again, make sure it's a place you can focus. That being said, it's easier to focus in more public spaces when you're away from home because likely the place you're working in is where other people are working too. If it's a proper business office or whether it's a co-working space, make sure that you have the ability to make your best work happen. So that could be something like a co-working space where you can rent out something as little as just a spot at a table if you're okay with more hubbub and people moving about and a little bit more commotion going on about you. If that doesn't faze you, great. That is a pretty low cost way outside of your home to find a place where you can work. You can also, at most co-working spaces, upgrade your space to be a little more private, a little bit more of a secluded space. Those, of course, cost more, but you'll get your money's worth if you need to have the quiet, the peace, the stillness around you to perform your best work. It's well worth it, and once again, something you can plan for in your project fees when you win projects. All right, topic number 4 is the equipment you're going to need. So in your space, of course, you're going to have things that you're working with. And I'm talking both physical and virtual in this case. For physical equipment, there isn't much you need to be able to design a project from start to finish. The first thing you'll need is your computer setup. Of course, nowadays as architects, we need computers to do our work. So make sure you look into it. There's plenty of resources out there to help architects choose computers that are going to work for them. Next thing, as far as your computer setup goes, I would specifically say make sure you get 2 monitors. Having that screen real estate is going to be so beneficial because we do so many different things. It's nice to be able to switch back and forth from one task to another right there on 2 screens. And not even one task to another, but being able to reference something on one screen and being able to perform work on another screen. A great example. I use 2 screens for having the building code site open on one screen and then a software where I'm actually doing something on the other. There's many cases in which 2 screens is going to be so beneficial for you. And once you go 2 screens, you really can't go back. It is going to improve your productivity, your efficiency at performing work, your ability to focus on what you're doing so you don't have to constantly minimize a window and then maximize it again and minimize it. It just makes things so much better having that second screen, and dare I say, maybe even a third, but you can make that decision on your own once you get there. More physical equipment you'll want to have is site visit items. This means a notepad and pens, very basic, but very crucial. Also, a camera. Your phone camera is likely going to be sufficient, so no need to go out and get a professional grade camera. Spend money on that. You don't need to, especially since you're just starting your business. You can do that later if you want, but just starting, just use your phone camera. Also, measuring devices, both short and long distance. You could go the analog route, which means a measuring tape and a measuring tape wheel for going across an entire property, for example. You can also go the more fancy, a little more costly, but efficient and quicker way of performing the work, which is lasers. Those are a wonderful way to take measurements quickly. Now, the 5th and final important topic before you start any jobs, your fee structure. How will you get paid? This is an important question to answer because the nature of your work is greatly affected by it. There are really 3 main fee structures in the architecture world. There is first hourly, very straightforward. We work for a long time on these projects, so we want to make sure we get paid. Then there is the percentage of construction cost. That's specific to architecture, and it also helps you make sure you get paid for the work you do because these construction jobs are expensive, and so even a modest percentage of those is going to bring you a fair amount of income. Finally, there is lump sum. This one is the most straightforward of all 3, and it's my favorite. I'll go into more detail about fee structures and the pros and cons of each and my thoughts on them in a future video. But for now, suffice it to say, it's good to think about what fee structure you're going to use of those 3. There are others. I've seen some people use per square foot costs. That just seems something that is a little bit arbitrary and not reliable for planning and budgeting, either for you as the service provider or the client. So beware of some of these lesser used fee structures. That is it. Once you've taken care of these 5 items, you will be in a phenomenal place to start the production work, bringing in money and making your business grow. If you still are wondering about some general business matters to take care of, I've got a video for you right here that is going to help you set up the fundamentals for your architecture business and get your business in general off the ground and ready to thrive.